everybody, and hi, soprano Sophia Burgos and pianist and poet Daniel Gerzenberg, and we are in Berlin at the moment.
Yes.
Yes, they were the winners of the special prize for the best interpretation of the commissioned composition Lied by Isabel Mundry in our last Franz Schubert and modern music competition. By the way, they won the second prize overall too. And we're very happy to see them again. Hi. So you're together at the moment? Are you working on something?
Yeah, we are working on our next recital, which is on April 1st. April 2nd in Monte Carlo. So we're working on a very challenging but very beautiful program of Crumb and Debussy.
Wow, that's a strong combination.
Yeah, it's basically in the competition we started to do that, combining Crumb with Schubert, and we just love Judge Crumb, and we through some research we found out that Crumb was very inspired by Debussy, so we put the two together.
Wow, I would love to hear that. I would love to go to Monte Carlo. So maybe we see each other on stage of April.
Yeah, let's go.
See you there.
But let's come to another different modern or even contemporary composer, to Isabel Mundry. She composed as a commissioned piece Lied. And the strange thing was, not only you, all the finalists only got the music for this piece 36 hours before you had to perform it. How was that experience for you?
You want to go first?
We knew that this was going to happen if we passed to the finals. So there is, of course, the element of mental preparation to it before, but once you get the piece, it's just, also, so this is the final, it will be live streamed. It will stay also in the internet. So this is the one side to it, but the other is that we, as a duo, we take a lot of care in doing contemporary music properly and with all the details involved. So we spend plenty of time during this 36 hours that were possible to us while we were awake on preparing, finding out the rhythms. There was a lot of inside piano playing, so I had to figure this out on my own. First we split, but before we even split, the time that we could not go to a rehearsal room, we would talk about the poem, which was a poem by Inga Christensen from the cycle Alphabet, and trying to just understand it, and because it's quite an abstract poem.
Mm-hmm. But as you can hear, we were very excited about it. Because, conceptually, I think it's actually a really great idea. I always actually really enjoy when competitions throw these kinds of new music challenges in, or have a piece that everyone is performing that's new, that has no reference point, because it tells you so much more, I think, about the artists when you get to see what they do with music that doesn't have a recording, that doesn't have a history. It's just this open idea that doesn't really have full life yet. And you need to put yourself very much into it to bring it to life. You can't copy someone else's ideas. It's all 100% your musical artistry, your intuition, your collaboration. You start to see really how, I think it would be very interesting for people also to see in the future, if possible, the way that different duos approach learning a piece like that, because I'm sure that it would be very interesting to see the way different duos tackle that challenge. Mm-hmm. But we really like stuff like that, and we take it really seriously, and we love the challenge. So we were excited about it.
Yeah, and as I know, Isabel Mundry was absolutely stunned by what you made out of her piece. So that's something for you as well. You met the composer, didn't you?
We haven't met her. No, but that's very beautiful.
No, she wasn't there, but she saw it online. That was
she wasn't there, so we didn't meet her. But that's a great compliment. I don't think we knew that information.
No, you didn't know that. How so? Yeah.
That's why, that's the thing, the best outcome, I would say, if the composer can say, if we hear from the composer that they loved it, because that's why we do all the work we do. The precision to...
She just said you were very convincing. And the good news is the thing is going to happen again, this time in summer, because due to the COVID situation, the final semi-finals and final rounds were postponed to some beautiful summer festival in July. And it's going to be the same process. So it's going to be in the so-called soirée, beautiful festive evening, where all the finalists of the lead section will be announced. They will get the music 2 days after they have to perform. So it's quite kind of the same situation. The composer this time is Judith Weir.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, she's a great composer. But so to our future finalists, what would you recommend to them? How can one deal with a challenge like this without dying of fear?
Well, we can speak to what we did specifically, which was, we approached it the same way we approach almost all of our music, just at kind of a faster rate. The first thing is to make sure that you give yourself time alone with the piece. Mm-hmm. It's important that you have time to go over your part and really make all the markings that you need to make, any challenging areas, go through the text, start to see which areas are going to be a little harder than others, make kind of a mental map of it. And what were you doing when you were alone?
The piano, in the piece we had a lot of inside piano. Mm-hmm. So that means as a pianist, you need to map out what happens inside. You have to mark strings, possibly. You have to get used to the coordination of grabbing inside the piano, going back to the keys.
The dance.
Yeah,
the choreography.
The choreography, yeah.
But I would say the most important thing, especially because of the time, is to understand that you're not going to do it perfectly, probably, unless you are really like, maybe you have perfect pitch or whatever it is, but I don't. And the first thing is kind of accepting that it probably won't be perfect, but that doesn't mean that it won't be great. Mm-hmm. So it's not about trying to be perfect. It's about trying to create something meaningful and with purpose. Even if, a few notes here and there are not absolute. We were not perfect at all by any means. Like, we had mistakes, but we focused a lot on the intention of the sounds and the intention of how she set the poetry and things like this. And so the real thing that I always come back to is the rhythm. Go through the whole thing with a metronome, like really know the rhythm, because you need to also very quickly create this unity between you two in a very short amount of time. And rhythm is usually what helps bind the two together.
And so I can sum up the first steps. Take time alone and really go into your part, like technically. Yeah.
And so separate the things from each other. Not only like the two people, but also the different elements you can focus on. And I would also say the poetry. This is maybe the first step one can do.
Yeah.
Is to look at the poem, to speak. After we came back from this dinner, we came back and we sat until 2 p.m. and we spoke about the poem because we couldn't go to practice room.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
You go through the poem and you understand each word, and
because you don't need a practice room for that.
You don't need a practice room for that, but you can go and understand already the meaning, because the composition will be based on this text.
Yeah. So the second step is go into the poem, each of you and together. And the third would already be the metronome.
Rhythm.
The rhythm.
Even if you're just speaking your part and not singing the pitches, the first thing is, can you do your part rhythmically correct with the rhythm of the piano, especially if it's very complex music. Rhythm is first, because as long as the rhythm is together, then you'll always be together. Yeah. And so then after you have a very good, and do it slowly, and just ramp it up as you need to get to the tempo you like. And then after that, you start to, you know, in your time alone, you start to get the pitches together. If you need to separate again and work on just the pitches, and then, so you have to take one element at a time. Don't try to do the rhythm, the pitches, the text, the diction, the dynamics, the accents. Like, you have to separate, like, okay, let's focus on rhythm. Now let's focus on extended techniques and the coordination. You have to kind of separate them and trust that it's all going to come together.
And
I found it quite interesting that you, Sophia, first came up with the rhythm, because I have the feeling most singers are most afraid of the pitch in non-tonal pieces, of finding, oh, will I find the right pitch? Yeah. And Daniel, what did you want to add right now?
I wanted to add that in the circumstance of lacking time, the contradictory and paradox thing is to give yourself time.
Wow, how do you do that?
Don't rush.
Don't rush, and to understand that you need time. Because what under pressure, you start to think, oh, we don't have time, we have to be fast. But the thing about deeper learning and like giving yourself time and understanding the different layers of a piece is basically goes only with time. And although it might seem to take more time because you don't do the things quickly, they're more profound and therefore, in the end, paradoxically quicker. But this is something you need to allow yourself.
Yeah.
One more thing, a lot of things has to do also with trust in this moment, because it's between two people. It's not on your own. So you need to comfort also yourself and give yourself time. And maybe at some point in the rehearsal, one of the two will need more time for a certain passage than the other because of the difficulty of this certain passage. And just to have that feeling, and that's something that I feel a lot from you, that it's okay when at some point I just don't know anything, and we just like, although I should have been prepared in this moment, it's okay to take time and to learn it together.
You want to reach understanding of the music, not necessarily perfection. You just want to make sure that what you're singing, the rhythm, the text, the accents, all of it you should understand why you're doing it and how you're doing it. And that's what makes something sound convincing and interesting, so that even when you do make mistakes, people still really feel the music and they feel the life of
because
it.
You got the spirit of it.
So it's about the spirit of the piece. It's about trusting each other, and it's about allowing yourselves to take the time you need and allowing yourselves to not to be perfect. Would that be, in a nutshell, everything you said? Yeah,
because I mean, I remember specifically there was in Lied by Mundry, there was like this descending quick scale, like I don't remember, I still don't know it. But I remember the pitches just were not clocking. They just weren't happening. So I told myself, okay, what's the first pitch of that scale and the last pitch? Can I do that? Yes, I can probably do that. So I learned that. And as I went along, I tried to get more and more of it correct. And I did in practice get it accurate. But then when we got into performance, it didn't really happen correctly. And I sang the first pitch and the last pitch, but everything in between was a little fuzzy. But I'm not going to let myself get mentally caught up in that. I'm not going to break the character. I'm not going to be so hard on myself that I got all those pitches wrong, because there's so many other things happening that are special and within the spirit of the piece. It's not about those individual tiny little mistakes or those little moments. It's about capturing the whole thing, the chemistry, all of this. It's so much more about that. So while it's important to strive to get all of these elements together very quickly, when it comes time to perform, you just gotta let it go. You just have to trust that you did the work and have fun and trust your collaborator and
not be
all of
in
that.
your head if something is, stay in your head if something is not perfect in the moment, but stay in the whole thing. Did something like this ever happen to you in your professional lives, that you had like to jump in for something on very, very short notice, maybe something that's not so known?
Plenty of times.
Yeah.
This is like, this is what I love about this challenge, because this is
very
a
realistic,
very realistic situation. In fact, I got Sophia to know this way.
Oh yeah, that's how we met.
Yes, how we met.
That's why you won.
Huh? Yeah,
that's why we won.
No, this is how our relationship started, because I met Sophia in the foyer of the Berlin Philharmonie, standing next to Barbara Hannigan, and I just came up to them just to say something, and then they asked me what I do, and I said I'm a pianist, and then they were like, oh, we need a pianist for after tomorrow for an audition with Simon Rattle. We don't have a pianist. Can you jump in? Can you play this?
And of course, I was doing this audition for Simon Rattle, and I wanted to present him all of this very difficult music and modern stuff like Weber and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he came up to us just to say hello, and he said he was a pianist. And I was like, great, can you please do this audition for me in 2 days? And I gave him all this music, and he had to just kind of learn it. And if he had said no to that, we wouldn't have the friendship and the relationship we have now, which is crazy.
One of the most like really, really interesting stuff for me so far happened like stuff like this. Mm-hmm. Last summer, I had to, in Hamburg, there's a Martha Argerich festival, and I was there because I was playing with my brother in a piano duo. And then Martha Argerich was supposed to play with Michael Folle, Mussorgsky songs of life and death. And the night, I knew before that I will play 2 songs of the 4, but the night before she said it's not possible, and I jumped in. Mm-hmm. And I'm not lying, having had the experience of done the Mundri mm-hmm. in Graz, knowing that I did this on live stream, because this concert was also on live stream, plus jumping in for Martha Argerich and what it brings with itself, I was just like, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm so glad to hear this, because this is actually why this challenge was invented. Mm-hmm. That young artists get the possibility to train a situation like this.
Yeah, and it happens a lot more than you think. And it can really, like, it was like what Daniel's saying, some really important things happened for me because I was able to jump in. I had to jump in to do a brand new 20-minute voice and orchestra song cycle. And this was in the Netherlands, and I'd never worked in the Netherlands before. And I jumped in, I only had 5 days to learn this mm-hmm. huge song cycle. And I did it, and it went really, really well. And I had all of this experience, like kind of just jumping in and learning things quickly, again, like singing the spirit of the music, even if it's not perfect. And that new music got me into like some very important opera houses to do Mozart and to do all this other stuff. So it can also just take you to so many different, like, you just never know what the connections will be between all of these different opportunities. So it's really important to take them, even if they're risky or don't even seem like important things to take. It can really change the whole course of your life if you take those risks.
And what was it that in mind, but was it something else you took away from the Franz Schubert and Modern Music competition?
Yes, very much. One of the things that stayed a lot with us was the whole research we made for the program of the competition, because mm-hmm. you give this list of contemporary song, and we just went through the list, and whatever we could find online that we could listen to, we did. And based on that, we mapped out a choice already for ourselves. Which composers do we like? Which song are speaking to us, and so on. So this created a map for ourselves already, what is like basically written right now.
Yeah, and I think something that has really stayed with us, that I think we're even becoming kind of known for now, which I think started with this competition, was the idea that modern music can live so closely next to the older repertoire. And now we are very like our programs, like we're doing this Crumb and Debussy, we really now try hard to break up song cycles. We almost never ever sing a cycle in its completion, like a full Debussy and then a full Crumb and then a full. We'll break cycles apart if we hear relationships between different pieces. We'll stick them right next to each other. We'll maybe even perform straight into other songs if we feel that there's some kind of symbiotic relationship. So it really helped us push our understanding of what recital repertoire and programming could be. And so, yeah, I would say that we're really kind of trying to dare to push what programs can look like. And I think it really started at that.
I like very much to hear that, because it's exactly the kind of recital I love to go to. And I think that applies to many other people as well, because it's very contemporary.
And also basically the idea of that. I like to think one of my favorite poets is Paul Celan. And there's like memories about him written, and someone described how when he would look at his own poetry, contemporary poetry, and then with the same friend, they would also look at poetry by Shakespeare and then treat it as if it was written now. So you don't approach it, oh, this is this text from the 16th century or 15th century or 19th century, or the same applies to music, but you just like go, we'll look at it exactly the same way as we would treat our own texts. So that takes away this like hierarchy of, oh, this is so much more valuable because it's old. It's just art, and it has been created in a certain type of time, and the same applies to music. So you don't make a difference in between Schubert and Crumb, and one can lead into the other. Schubert and Crumb use the same elements, a piano and a voice. They use them differently, but what they express is through the lens of their soul, but it goes together. And there's relations in that. And even like when we now deal with Debussy and Crumb, we have like some pieces, they just like,
they're so similar.
But you only see it because you juxtapose them, because then suddenly, this line in Debussy is, it exists already in the other way around. This line in Crumb, it exists already in Debussy.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we've been practicing, and Daniel will stop and he'll say, wait a minute, he'll play something from the Crumb. He's like, this is exactly like this. And then he'll start playing some other Debussy or some Rachmaninoff or whatever he plays. And he's like, look, it's the same, like it's the same idea. And then we actually try to keep this in mind. If we hear something in a contemporary piece that has such a similar spirit to something else from the past, then we think, oh, that could be a very interesting programming idea. Maybe people should hear the relationship between this music and really kind of bring it, like he's saying, all forward together.
And I think what it also comes to is that, and that's also something that the competition taught us, but I mean, we also generally think to not devaluate the art of our time. So if you treat the contemporary music of today not the same, with the same approach and the same ethics that you have towards a piece by Schubert, then you don't give justice to that music. And if you perform it with less care, it will not sound as good. It's the same way a Schubert piece would not sound as good. Right?
So the message is, those kinds of music are not separate islands, but they are one continent in a way. Thanks very much for this talk, and for everybody. The semifinals and finals of Franz Schubert Modern Music are taking place live in Graz between the 20th and the 24th of July. And we hope very much to meet many interesting people here. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Have fun.
Bye.